Thank you to my old first robotics team, Frog Force, for having me here today. I'm happy to have the opportunity to speak to all of you about my involvement in FIRST, my personal experiences in the workforce, and women in engineering. Originally, I had reservations about being the alumni speaker for Kickoff. I travel for work, currently flying back and forth from Boston to Chicago, so I really enjoy being in my apartment and spending Saturday mornings in my pajamas. When my mom first suggested I be the alumni speaker back in November, I said, okay, I'll think about it, which is code for no. In addition to that laziness factor, I figured we already have so many great programs to support women in engineering and in the workforce. We are constantly exposed to research about how crucial it is to have a diversified team and how those companies are more successful. So I figured, does it really matter if the alumni speech is from a girl or a guy? Why do I need to give a speech about the importance of women in engineering when that very same month we'll be swearing in our first female president? But things turned out differently on November 9th. And I no longer had that female figurehead I thought would do the heavy lifting for me. It was definitely a blow to my personal confidence, but it reminded me that I almost passed on an opportunity to serve as a role model myself. As we continue to push forward in hopes of achieving our own individual successes, we naturally seek role models and mentors to help us with our own personal goals. However, there becomes a point, much quicker than you think, when you can serve as that role model for someone else. And as you all graduate and be in my shoes in the next several years, I would encourage you to remember what I almost forgot. Since probably none of you know me personally, I'll take the opportunity to list out my qualifications for being here today. I participated in FIRST as a student, a mentor, a judge, and announcer, and also now as a kickoff speaker. In high school, I was on the robotics team for 3 years. I was awarded a FIRST scholarship, and I attended Katherine University, where I got my industrial engineering degree. My college alternates 3 months of school with 3 months of full-time work, so I had the opportunity to mentor while I was still in college. And I can tell you as a result that after working 9-hour days and then mentoring for another 3 hours is exhausting. So give your mentors a break if you find them napping in the corner. I graduated from Katherine with multiple honors, but my favorite one is an honor society limited to 1% of the student body called the Robot Society. So my senior year in college, I literally became a robot. Look it up, it's a real thing at Katherine. We even have a robot statue. After I graduated, I worked as an analyst and then as a consultant for Accenture, which is a technology consulting company. And most recently, I'm also a level 23 Pokemon Master. But back to what we're here to talk about today. Technology consulting isn't exactly the most common career path for industrial engineers. Typically, you see them working in manufacturing facilities, probably in automotive if you're staying in Michigan. And that's probably the route I would have taken too, if it weren't for FIRST Robotics. When you're in high school, there's a lot of pressure for you to decide what you want to be when you grow up. At age 17, you're expected to pick a college and a degree, which will ultimately impact your first job and potentially the rest of your career, no pressure. Part of the reason this is so intimidating was because as a student, you don't really have exposure to a variety of experiences. Just because you took one biology class doesn't give you the full scope of what it means to be a doctor. If you really don't like any of your high school teachers, it might be hard to visualize becoming a teacher yourself. And if you had a bad experience in a math class, it might be difficult to see yourself as an engineer. Classroom experience is very limiting, which is why I think FIRST is so valuable. You have the opportunity to pursue your interests in a way that fits you outside of the classroom. I learned a lot about myself from being in FIRST. One is that as the person in charge of writing the chairman's essay, I wasn't really a fantastic writer. And secondly, what I really excel at is working with technical people to understand different concepts or mechanics and being able to explain that in a way that's relatable. One of my favorite parts of FIRST wasn't the competitions, it was after the competition season was over. Our team would schedule school demos, booths at public events, and sometimes even segments for the local news, all as a way of showing off our robot and promoting FIRST, of course. I would shove the robot in the back of my mom's minivan, pick up the other students that were attending, and we would haul it out to the next location. At these demos, I would talk to kids and adults about FIRST, about our robot, and why it was designed for that particular competition. I would explain how our mechanisms worked that year and answer a variety of questions about the robot. The goal of these demos was to be informative and interactive. My job was basically to make engineering fun, which came very naturally to me since I found it fun. Also, it didn't hurt that we had a giant robot. All of this was really fun in high school, but more seriously, it was because of these opportunities and experiences I knew what I was good at and what I wanted to pursue as an adult. It was just a matter of being creative with the application of these skills. It will probably disappoint some of you to know that as a technology consultant, I don't work with robots all day, but I still love my job. What I actually do is work with clients to come up with technology solutions to their business problems. This requires working with programmers, data architects, as well as business users and managers. In essence, my job is to be a translator. I translate business problems to the technology team, and I translate technology solutions for the management team. A job I probably never would have found myself in if not for my experiences on the team, but more importantly, my experiences in the off-season. I hope that all of you have the opportunity to contribute to your teams in a way that's meaningful for you. One of the things you'll hear really often about FIRST is how it helps you develop the basic professional skills that are applicable to any job. Time management, sticking to a budget, meeting different technical constraints, and the ability to come up with a real-world solution to an abstract problem are skills you'll develop by being a member of the team, and you'll use those same skills at your very first job. The thing they don't talk about is how geeked your parents will be at the mention of a robotics team, and how eventually your entire family will be involved in the team, and then the robot will live in your basement. Or at least that was the case for me. Although I didn't always feel like it, I was really fortunate to have that support network. This is one of the best benefits of FIRST for me. The support network you get from the robotics team. The friendships you make, the mentors that write you the best recommendation letters, and the family members. My first day at Katherine, I was a little nervous I wouldn't fit in, going to a college that was 18% female and still had urinals in the women's bathrooms. I know firsthand the gender gap still exists and what it's like to feel out of place. I had been pretty much resigned to this, but my first day on campus, I met one of my best friends, John Crimmins, because he was wearing a 1024 robotics shirt. We talked about our teams and recent competitions, and now 8 years later, I'm excited to be going to his wedding. FIRST made an impact on my life in high school, in college, and continues to do so well into my professional career. Even though I did end up making my share of friends in college, my classes were noticeably absent of other women. Since I've entered the workforce, I have noticed a slight improvement, but nowhere near the 50-50 mark. To me, this seems like a shame that those companies are missing out on roughly half the population that are filled with great ideas. My favorite example of this is a TSA PreCheck sign I saw in an airport. For those of you that don't know, PreCheck is a program you sign up for. You get to keep your belongings in your bag, but most importantly, you get to keep almost any type of shoe on when you go through security, except if it contains metal, like a high heel. So, when I see the sign promoting TSA PreCheck with a picture of a high heel saying, "Keep your shoes on," I thought, why are they putting literally the only shoe you can't wear through PreCheck on a sign clearly advertising the shoes that you can wear through PreCheck? They obviously didn't have any women in their marketing department. It's a silly, unimportant example, but it demonstrates how easily mistakes are made if the right people aren't involved. The barriers for women to enter technical fields still exist. They're just more subtle now. Our job is to make sure that all of those barriers are removed for the betterment of our society and for the accuracy of the signage in our airports. I'd like to end on a quote from a speech made by Hillary Clinton, which I think is applicable to the challenges you'll face during the upcoming competition season, but for me is applicable to my everyday life. Always aim high, work hard, and care deeply about what you believe in. And when you stumble, keep faith. And when you're knocked down, get right back up and never listen to anyone who says you can't or shouldn't go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dale. Before we go any further, I'd like to invite